Okay. Come on over here. All right.
Be over here.
Right here. You're good.
Live.
Yeah, we're doing it live. All right. So tell me the name of your podcast.
It's called Clicks and Bricks Podcast.
Okay. And what's it about?
I interview business founders about how they started their companies, the efforts that they took to get there, and then how they overcome adversity in their business every day to stay
Perfect.
above water.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably I would be a good guest on your podcast. So I have a company called SuiteCentric, which is an ERP consulting company on the NetSuite platform. That's what we focus on. That's my main thing that I do.
Awesome.
Also a podcaster, host, and producer of another podcast. And then I recently started PodTask, which is a software application designed to help podcasters connect, record, and grow.
Okay.
Really focused on the growth part of it, but it's got a whole guest member database where you can find guests, you can have guests find you. We've got podcast pitching in there.
Nice.
So for you, in terms of going on to other podcasts to brand yourself, it's got the ability for you to pitch yourself as a guest to whatever, it's connected to a database of like 2 million podcasts. So
you don't have to hire a PR agent.
Exactly. So anyway, you can find out more about PodTask later, but let me go through some questions that I've got for everybody here. All right. So you gave me the name of your the podcast and your premise. How long have you been podcasting for?
Just over 2 years. We're about 350 episodes in.
And what are you seeing in terms of your growth, like download numbers or audience engagement and that sort of a thing?
Right. We just, I guess, around November of 22, we started approaching about 250,000 downloads per month on iTunes. It took me a long time to realize that iTunes is where I need to be marketing a lot of my efforts at, because it also has the biggest return from ad spend. So once that kind of clicked and this is an arbitrage game, then things started to loosen up a lot.
And okay, so you do audio only, it sounds like, or
no, we do
you
audio
do
video?
Okay.
So I took 2 months off of promoting YouTube, and I took that money that I was using to promote YouTube and moved it over to promotions on iTunes. The iTunes is now up and running, and we're re-adding our capital, kind of our expense startup marketing dues. We're putting it back on YouTube now. But
okay.
iTunes grew for us. The audio grew a lot faster than the video did when we were focused on it.
Okay, final couple of questions here. So what's been your greatest achievement, and what would you say are your biggest pain points that you've had in terms of growing your podcast?
I would say that they're both the same thing. It's continuing to make content when nobody's watching or listening, right? And then just having the faith and tenacity that I'll figure out how to be entertaining, maybe, hopefully one day, or I'll find an audience one day, right? So for me, the biggest achievement was keep going when nobody was watching. And it was also a pretty hard thing to overcome, right? Because there's days you're like, well, what the hell am I doing this for? If nobody's gonna tune in, then why am I here? What am I doing this for? And that's a hard thing to overcome. And I'm lucky. It took me about a year of getting no views before I got to like 200 or 300 per episode, right? And not everybody's that lucky. And that's this show. And trust me, I made hundreds, thousands of pieces of content prior that nobody's ever seen. So
it's all about the passion. It's all about staying with it.
Yes.
There's a lot of burnout that can happen with podcasters. I think I've experienced it. And, another thing too, it's, excuse me, like you can't see how your audience is consuming the work that you're putting out there, right? You don't know. You just put it out there and you kind of hope that it's engaging to people, that it's relevant, that, so what's been, how did you kind of get through that slog, that initial kind of not knowing how it's being received and not seeing the download numbers?
Yeah, the biggest thing that helped me is moving from an independent show to an interview-based style. So as soon as I moved to that, I realized that I didn't have to promote my episodes by myself. I would produce something, I would create a bunch of value for another person, and then that person would then start creating value for my show, right? So, and having literally no preconceived notion of what I want out of it other than creating good content was a catalyst movement for me on starting to make much better content.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for stopping by.